to the Insider Hotline. We go and say good morning to Darren Dreger, TSN Hockey Insider.
Bienvenue.
Good morning, Dregs.
Good morning. How are we today? Everything
well,
good?
We're in slight panic because Twitter X was down, and we're waiting for you to tell us, you and LeBrun to tell us what's going on. So we're in a state of flux.
Is it still down? Is X still down?
I think it's up.
It's in and out. It's been tough this morning.
I don't frequent it as often as I once did. There's just too much nonsense and garbage on there. So yeah. Now, you know what? Obviously, you want to get to all the speculation and what's percolating around Rasmus Andersson. That's pretty obvious. That's a hot topic, not just in your market in Calgary, but across the National Hockey League. And I mean, unless something is changing as we're having this conversation, there's nothing done yet. There is nothing done yet. But I can tell you that, trade conversation around Rasmus Andersson most definitely intensified as yesterday progressed. And, I think that's why we're hearing and seeing some of what we're hearing and seeing. And, this isn't a simple trade for obvious reasons. He's an expiring contract. And so whatever the dance is, if they've narrowed down a team, and I'm going to be careful not to mention the team that I believe is probably most interested, just because I'm not 100% locked in on it.
Okay.
But when you're on an expiring contract and you're a player of this significance, I mean, isn't it pretty obvious the agent would have to be involved, and there would have to be conversations taking place as to what an extension looks like, potentially a sign and trade. What does that look like? And then you work out, and maybe you already have the parameters of what the return is for the Calgary Flames. And you're okay with that if you're Craig Conroy, but a deal first has to be made between the new team and the player to make sure that all of those pieces fall into place. And I'm not certain that that's what's gumming it up, but I do know with impeccable source as of last night that everything that was being speculated that this thing had legs of getting done in the very near future is legit to a point. There were many who were maybe mildly surprised that he was played last night.
Exactly. I was going to say it. Sure. Yeah. The vibes sure seem to be that, okay, he's playing. Well, it's maybe not, but it does feel like that's, we're tea leaves. You know more than we do, but it kind of has the vibes that the trade, the framework of a deal is more or less agreed upon in terms of players. It's now maybe is Rasmus signing an extension.
Yeah. But look, Craig Conroy's not an idiot. Let's give this man the benefit of the doubt and respect that he deserves. He's not putting a piece like that in the lineup if it's right there at the finish line. He's not doing that. I mean, what did he play? He almost played 27 minutes last night for the Flames.
They're not protecting him. They're playing him.
I mean, so when you're that close, historically, you know that they just hold players out. Or, I broke a signing last week, the James Reimer signing, while the Ottawa Senators were getting clubbed over the head by the Colorado Avalanche. I mean, deals and stuff happens while games are going on. And it's not unthinkable that if you're Conroy and you get to that place with the new GM and the agent is on board, where you hold that player out for the second, third period. I mean, we've seen that, not often, but we see that. So the fact that he played almost 27 minutes, now the clock is ticking. We're looking at tomorrow, right?
Okay,
what's happening tomorrow?
So Dean said it perfectly. We're reading tea leaves. You have actual really rock solid sources and talk to GMs. Just from what I've garnered in terms of like what we're hearing, whether it's rumor or real.
Yeah.
Boston sounds like they've made a legitimate offer. We've heard whispers of Detroit. It's a perfect fit for Dallas. Can they make it work with the money on an extension? That seems to be the challenge there because Robertson's an RFA this summer with 1 year away from you. Ottawa, apparently a bit of a dark horse here. They could use an upgrade on the right side. Vegas is a fit. And Carolina never seems to be out of these things. Are we missing anyone? Or how would you handicap that field?
Yeah. I mean, I guess Leafs Nation would go, what about Toronto? And we know the history of Brad Treliving trying to acquire this player. But when this thing was kind of growing legs yesterday, I checked with my Leaf sources, and they didn't seem to have any idea that anything was elevating specific to Rasmus. So that tells us that they're probably not in the mix. Now, that was yesterday, right?
Yeah.
And it's relatively quiet right now, but it could also be the calm before the storm. So, Tree likes to gum things up. That's part of his swagger as a general manager in the National Hockey League. So maybe he jumped back into the fray. I don't know. And I've heard Pinder, basically what you said, I've heard the same thing with all of those clubs. Okay. I have. And no one this morning from the majority of those teams is denying their involvement or their level of interest. I guess historically, I want to drill down and focus on the Vegas Golden Knights. And not because this is inside information and I'm kind of covering my tracks. No, that's not what I'm saying. The reason why I would put them at the head of the field is because look at the deals that this guy makes, Kelly McCrimmon. Look at the deals. And he has the history, with Noah Hannafin, and go down the list of
Tomas Hertl last year, right? The Hertl thing came out of nowhere.
Well, they also have the benefit of being in Vegas, great city, great fans, and great taxes. So when you talk about extension,
doesn't have a first round pick in 26, does have a first round pick in 27, 28.
Yeah.
Other pieces that could be attractive in Calgary, of course. I would never, and until someone from the Vegas Golden Knights that I trust says, no, it's not us, then I'm going to keeping an eye on the Vegas Golden Knights, just because history tells me that you have to do that. They're in a business collecting good players, and Rasmus Andersson definitely qualifies as that.
If you need to take a little social media timeout or text the GMs and break this trade on our show, we're fine with that, Drex. Just let us know. We'll give you 2.
Okay. Well, hold on. I just got a text here.
We'll play some music, or Rhett's a juggler. He'll do some party tricks.
He can sing Christmas carols any month. He's really good at that. Yeah.
I'll say this: we were just kind of talking about it, and I kind of looked down and I saw you're in the room there. But if this deal goes down and Rasmus in fact has played his last game, it has shaped up as well as you could have hoped for Craig Conroy and the Flames. Rasmus Andersson said at the start of the year, this is not going to be a distraction. And you said it, it's a contract year, so he's going to play well. But the guy is, from what we could tell, healthy, has had one of his finest seasons. We talked about it. Minus 38 last year. He's now a +1 player. He's playing 23, 24 a night. His goals, he's
had the fight the other night.
He's going to have a career year in goals and probably points. I guess that'll depend on if and where he goes. But he has delivered in the best possible way for the Flames.
Yeah, I agree with that. And did you guys ever buy that as this thing continued to drift forward, that the notion that he would extend in Calgary was real or legit?
I mean, I would say very, very a non-zero chance, but I just thought it didn't match what they're trying to do, and the market was going to be so robust.
If they were in a better position in the standings,
that would
changes everything.
Yeah. So I would tend to agree with that assessment. Although somebody I trust, who is close to it, told me yesterday that it still wasn't, it wasn't a dead issue, that there was some plausibility to it happening. Right.
That's the track record here.
Yeah. But that was early in the day, and then as the day evolved, the trade talks intensified and got to the place where it feels like we still are today. I was comfortable, and I said it on air at TSN last night, that there wasn't a deal that was going to happen last night. Can I say that as firmly today? No, I can't say that. And mostly because, again, they've got another game coming. There's another game looming as early as tomorrow, but according to our sources, there's still a lot of work that's being done, around the entirety of what would make this trade happen.
So the rumored ask is a first and a ready-to-play prospect, like someone that's just emerging as an NHLer. Does that check out with what you're hearing?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. And I can't remember where I read it, but I thought somebody tweet the specifics of what they believe the Boston offer was?
Yeah, I saw Jimmy Murphy in Boston saying Lowry in a first, and I'd heard some whispers about Lowry as well. He's a big left shot D. They don't have a lot of left shot D, like it's Ball and then young guys in Hanley, and they're stacked on the right. Rasmus is going to be gone, but you still got obviously Uyghur and Bristevich and Parekh and Pahal and Muse is a couple of years away at Penn State. Like they got lots of righties coming.
Yeah, and look, I happen to be a fan of Lowry, but it's pretty evident that Marco Sturm doesn't see him as the player maybe I think he could be or might be with a little bit of time. So as soon as I saw it, and I appreciate you acknowledging Jimmy, because I couldn't recall who actually posted it, but I read it. I went, okay, that makes some sense. And then if it were to happen that way, it would be a great opportunity for Lowry. It would be, because I do think that he's a better player. He's just jammed up in Boston, right? But if it were that simple and that was a deal that Craig Conroy could live with, it feels like it would be done by now, unless you've got Don Sweeney grinding with Claude Lemieux and they can't get to that happy place. But I mean, it feels like that's the latest, fellas. I wish I had more to give you on that. It feels like that's
just out of personal interest, because we kind of have talked about Rasmus the whole time, and then you start getting into more details of it. And then last night, Tucker signs in LA. And I'm like, is that what happens with Tree calling it? Oh, wait a minute.
I was just going to say the same.
Right? Like it has some similarities where it's like, hey, Conroy's going down a path and he throws out that last, hey.
You've got these GMs that think they're shrewd and they're like, I say, and then, hey, I did. So are you going to trade?
Wow.
I hear it's close. Well, I mean, you got to give us a call. We're involved.
Here's our best
offer.
That
kind of bullshit.
Okay, you're just solidifying my argument as to why I'm just keeping my powder dry here, wondering about Vegas, because that's exactly what McCrimmon and the Vegas Golden Knights do. They let all the noise build around, and they let social media do its thing, and you build up hype in Boston, and you build up hype, and maybe it's Ottawa. Geez, maybe Tree swoops back in, and then the big swing and comes in from LA and goes, okay, we've let you guys piss around and muck around on Tucker. We're coming in with 60 large times 4. Who's topping that? 60 schmil. That's what we're giving you. Is that good? Will that work for you?
Okay with that?
Done deal.
Well, you want short term? Here's short term. Boom, more money.
Well, and it's also
windows after what, year 2? Like that deal is just bonkers. And Jays fans, I can't wait to see ownership of the Blue Jays come out. We were in it. We were in it right till the end. Yeah, sure you were.
That's what the Jays are. They're the sounding board for where those guys want to end up, and when they go to LA. Well, the Jays are going to give me this. Okay, well then we'll give you that.
Mets too.
I love it.
The Mets got the big wallets.
Yeah, I love it. I'm not being critical of the Jays. They're coming off a wonderful year, and I was a fan, but I'm sitting there going, when the LA Dodgers are just kind of looking around and going, okay, let's everybody just turn blue in the face, exhausting themselves, and then we'll come in and we'll get the player, because that's what
They've
we
been down at the beach at vacation, just chilling out. All right, I'll pop into the office here this afternoon.
Just got that done.
And then meanwhile, you've got Bo Bichette who says, okay, all right. Perfect. Yeah, well, my deal just went up another $50 million.
He just signed, I don't know if you saw it, $43 million a year to the Mets. Like that's huge.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, Bo was like, thank you very much.
That's considerably more than Vladdy on a short-term deal.
And everybody groaned at the Vladdy deal, right?
It's looking good now.
Yeah, it looks
out of all those teams too, and what you talk about with Vegas, that contract and the tax and the actual take-home money is probably it does matter nowadays.
Maybe you get him at 8 versus 9, and
Boston, Detroit, no good. Ontario's not a great tax. Carolina's a decent tax state, I think, but
extension might be tougher there. Dallas is friendly on taxes.
Dallas is friendly. That's the only other.
Well, again, Vegas. We did the regional Leafs game. It was the Marner night, of course.
It was unbelievable last night. The last 10 minutes, Dregs, holy shit. That was the best game I've seen all year, I think.
Well, but you could see it happening, right? And
big time.
I'm on set with O-Dog and Brian Hayes and James Duthie. And when they pulled their goalie, we're looking at that, allotment of talent. And we're like, well, they're going to score. Like it's inevitable. And
even I one called back.
Yeah. They score with 7 seconds left to extend it into overtime. But doing the pregame and watching Marner walk into the building, I don't know if you guys caught it or not. He's got the Tom Cruise early day flow going. He's got the shades. He's coming in out of the sun, pulls the shades off, walking into it's like Vince McMahon, just the old swagger.
You know what it is? It's like these guys in Vegas, like we all have vacations and it's like, oh yeah, like I'm in vacation mode. Those guys just live in vacation mode.
Living it, man.
They don't have snow boots. They don't have winter tires. They don't have a heated garage. They're fucking living on vacation.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love it. What else you got, Boomer? Come on, throw some hard balls there. Let's go.
No, we've talked a lot about, obviously, you can imagine. It's like the Rasmus, does a deal get done?
Yeah.
Probably. He's a UFA.
Yeah.
He's going to want big money, that sort of thing. The other ones that seem a little bit further away to me are the Blake Coleman and Nazem Kadri. They've got deals for next year, and that Coleman's hurt right now, but until last night, leading the team in goals, 13. But still, for him, it's tremendous. They for the most part, have had fine seasons. And I know Pierre was on one of the podcasts out in Ontario talking about Murray Edwards, and he does not want to rebuild. He wants to kind of adapt on the fly or whatever. I don't want to put words in his mouth. And I think for some fans, they think, okay, the Rasmus deal is done. Okay, so now it's Coleman, and would you try? I don't feel that way. What's your sense on whether is this a domino effect, or is this just the impending UFA and that business is done and that's probably it?
So look, I can appreciate what Pierre was saying about Murray Edwards, but I feel like, and this would already have happened by now, Craig Conroy goes to Murray and Maloney and says, all right, as general manager, here's what my plan looks like. And he's going to have to sell them. When you're moving pieces like Andersson, potentially Nazem Kadri, you've got to have a plan in place. And I don't think that Edwards would actually pound his fist on the table and say, we are not going into a rebuild. It depends on how we want to define the word. I think the days are gone, to be fair, of teams taking it right down to the wood and going through a 5, 7, 9-year rebuild. I don't think we're going to see that again anytime soon. So you can retool and you can renovate and you can change and transition on the fly. So I believe Andersson, of course, will be traded. I think there's a strong chance that Nazem Kadri is traded. I do. And, I'm looking at teams that could use a little bit more help up the middle of the ice. Could a return trip to Colorado be possible? I think it's possible. If Colorado just all of a sudden moves a couple of pieces and don't get a whole lot back, then my antenna is going to go up on what might happen with Kadri. Pierre has linked interest from the Montreal Canadiens in Blake Coleman. And I can understand that. I know that Craig Conroy is fielding a ton of calls with interest in Blake Coleman. But guys, at the end of the day, you've got to have players who are going to help you stay competitive and maintain the culture of your organization. And I know that Conroy and company, the Flames as an organization, feel deeply for Blake Coleman and Michael Backlund. So is either player untouchable? No. But if we're talking specifically about Blake Coleman, and if it's interest from Montreal or any other team, you're paying a premium. You're overpaying to move that player out of Calgary because that's how respected he is by the Flames.
It's interesting with Kadri because he had been playing very well, and you still see him; he's involved. But after last night's game, it's now it's quite a drought. It's 1 point in 12, still leads them in scoring despite going cold for 3 weeks. But the optics look like it's not the same Naz as before Christmas.
Can I add to that? Just our GMs. Is it that bad that a GM that knows the history of Nazem Kadri doesn't know what he's getting? Like, is it so bad that are we watching Nazem and going, "You're done, it's over," or are we watching Nazem Kadri going, "We're not very good, and I'm having a hard time going"? And yes, it's not going well for me. And a guy that looks like I need a fresh start. It's not helping Conroy ask for more. No, but he also knows what he has, and so do other GMs around the league, right?
Yeah.
Like, has it gotten to that point where people are absolutely not interested? I mean, you said that.
No, there's interest. Confirmed there is definitely interest in him. What has he got left? 3 years,
3 years
after this year.
Yeah.
So maybe you get creative in that. And if you think of the teams that, again, could use at least a balanced second line center, and I think he's still capable of that, despite the fact that the numbers haven't been there of late. I think he's capable of that. And, he would be motivated, to go to a contending team. I think you get that. But when I say you've got to be creative, I think you have to be willing to accept that, all right, let's bank on this guy for the remainder of this year and the next 2. And then we got to find a way to unload him for that 3rd year. And that's not always easy. But I think that's why, if you want to look at teams that are either right on the edge of being a playoff team, Naz would prefer not that. He'd prefer to go to an established contender like Colorado. I mentioned maybe Dallas. Dallas has got Jason Robertson to wrestle with contractually, as he's expiring at the end of this year. But, they've got money to play with, right? Because of injury, and they have a need at center ice. That might be a little bit too much for them because of the term with Kadri. But I know there's interest. And maybe if you get exactly what you need for Rasmus Andersson, I mean, you're not selling off Kadri at a discount price, but maybe you don't feel like you've got to hit the grand slam with both guys, right?
Yeah.
Maybe you can be a little bit more flexible depending on what is actually being offered.
Yeah, my fear with Kadri here isn't like, oh, you've got to get this huge return. It's like, you don't want to be holding the bag when he's 38, because he's worth something now. Even if you have to eat some money, maybe you get a little more. But there's a very real probability that he's an unmovable asset very soon. And for a team in a rebuild, you're going to look back and say, man, we could have got assets for that guy. And now it's like, he's 38. And like, there's not many players that are good at 38. Like, probably less than 5% in league history are still functional at 38.
And it's supply and demand, fellas. Like, we could probably rhyme off 10 teams in the National Hockey League that need a centerman, right? Yeah. Now, some of those teams have drifted into oblivion. Like, I think of the Vancouver Canucks. Well, he's not going to Vancouver.
Right.
I mean, but what about a team like the Montreal Canadiens? Yeah. They're still very much in the playoff conversation. They've got a real sexy prospect pool, of kids that are right there ready to be NHL players. The problem that Ken Hughes might have is, okay, where's Michael Hayes? Yeah. How far away is he from being an NHL player? But think about this. Like, again, if you embrace what I said a minute ago, and you think of Nazem Kadri being really good, or at least good, for the next 2 years, maybe that's a real nice transition window to allow a young player like Michael Hayes to come into his own. And then in 2 years, maybe he's ready to be number 2 center in Montreal. I don't know. But those are the things that keep me up at night, is not just the obvious information that I know to be rock solid and sound, but you look for the fits, right? And that's, frankly, I'm kind of opening my playbook here a little bit. That's how, guys like me end up breaking news, is nobody just hands you the information. You got to connect the dots. And so you look at the clubs that would have that type of need and what they have coming, and then you narrow the list down based on what I just described out of Montreal.
Man, Colorado would be fascinating, because Brock Nelson's on like a 40-goal pace, and he's their number 2 center. If you could slide Nazem as your 3 and push Jack Drury to your 4th-line center, like, they're already
you're
like,
loaded
gap between them and second. But like, that's how you really say bleep you. Like,
and doesn't that make a lot of sense?
Second, and 3rd-line center than almost everyone.
That makes a ton of sense to me. It does, and again, those are 2 teams that I'd keep an eye on, if we're being specific here to Naz and what might come his way.
Yeah, it's going to be fun, and not just kind of moving even past the Flames players. Which teams think, you know what, it's been a while since we've been able to do this. Buffalo, the Islanders, Detroit, some of these teams that are like, we're done getting kicked around. Yeah. We're in it. Let's make a push. Maybe we don't win it, but for our fans and for the guys in the room and everything, let's spend some picks. We've been drafting for years.
Yeah. And again, if we want to wrap up the Calgary conversation, that's fine. But if you're Conroy and management there, you have to pay attention to what other teams are doing. And the sellers market, which, trust me, is growing this week.
Yeah.
It grew this week because teams are in their scouting meetings, right? So they're sitting in their boardrooms and they've got their whiteboards up and they're looking and they're projecting all the needs of the other clubs around the National Hockey League. So that's one whiteboard. Then their whiteboard includes all of the pieces that they're willing to put in play. And trust me when I tell you that we're not even, as insiders, we're not even scratching the surface of the players who are potentially in play, right? We're not. And what is St. Louis doing?
Mm-hmm.
What is St. Louis doing? There's Robbie Thomas rumors that have percolated all over the place, but he's not alone. There are going to be other pieces of the St. Louis Blues that are going to surface here, whether we find out about it or not. So Conroy has to be cognizant of that, because you're having the trade conversations with the team, but all of a sudden a player pops in from another team to the team that's doing the shopping that you weren't thinking was going to be available. And now all of a sudden you become plan B or plan C with the assets that you were hoping to move.
What is going on in St. Louis? They make the coaching change and make a statement of, when a guy like this comes available, you go get him. Was kind of their explanation of getting Montgomery, right? Yeah. Comes in, does a hell of a job. They should have beat Winnipeg. They blow it at the end of the game. And now they're very similar to the Flames. Or is that just what teams that get on a roll and feel good one year they aren't actually that good? I don't. Yeah, it's odd to me. Because if you turn around and point at the coach, it's like, well, he just
was the savior.
I thought last year this was the guy that got you going.
Yeah, I think you described it perfectly, and I just don't think they're very good. I don't, and I think that Doug Armstrong can see that. Again, use the R word: either rebuild, renovate, retool, whatever. But he can see that that's what's needed here. And he's had to go to that ownership a couple of times, under his leadership as general manager, and get owner there to buy in, and it's worked. I mean, they're Stanley Cup champions. So I am not calling out Doug Armstrong in any way, shape, or form. I'm just stating the facts, and that is, as a GM, at times that can be difficult to do when you've done it more than once with your ownership group. So his level of frustration is high. He made the coaching change, hoping that would make a difference. I think that he expected that some of the younger pieces were going to take another step in their development, and that hasn't necessarily changed. But let's again visit. This is something that I often think about too. When you've got a talented, skilled young player like Robbie Thomas potentially in play, don't you ask yourself why?
Yes.
No, why is that? Why is that? You would think that he'd be a piece that the Blues feel like they could build around.
Yeah.
And, that, again, according to our sources and teams who believe that this man, Robert Thomas, is available for trade, that's the first thing that comes to my mind in asking questions. Why? I mean, Kevin Shoveldayoff, after his media availability, when he talked about adding scoring, just said to me point blank, he goes, the problem with wanting to add scoring is, especially with a small market team like Winnipeg, you want players who have proven they can be productive players at some level. It doesn't always have to be at the NHL level, but preferably are under term. They have term left on their contract. Who's trading away a productive NHL forward under term? Nobody. And, Robbie Thomas hasn't been as good as they were hoping or expecting, but this one's still a bit of a head scratcher for me.
Want to get an update on Dougie Hamilton. He's back in the lineup in New Jersey. There was some thought he would not return at any point. Is this kiss and make up, or are they buying time?
Buying time for sure. I think that there's been enough water under the bridge on this that he's going to get traded. Whether or not that happens in season, I don't know. Maybe it drifts into the off season. Hey, there's interest in Dougie Hamilton. We talked about the teams interested in Rasmus. Well, some of those teams would duplicate and have an interest in Hamilton, but not at that price tag. So how much is, are the New Jersey Devils willing to retain? And it doesn't sound like they want to retain at this point. It doesn't. Well, then I think you're kind of stuck. So, he's not a terrible defenseman. by his standard, he hasn't been as good this year, but his underlying numbers aren't bad. And in fact, they might be as good as there is, on that Devils blue line right now, to be fair. And then they pop him back into the mix. I didn't buy Sheldon Keefe's explanation that, okay, Kovacevic is back and we need to get him up to speed. And the truth is, we're just deep on that side. So, okay, let's just scratch a 20-minute defenseman. Like, come on, so
7th in the league for shots and defensemen.
I mean,
the guy's still Dougie Hamilton.
And then he steps into the lineup, gets a couple of assists, had an assist the following game. So he's not the problem there. But yeah, I think that enough has happened between Hamilton and the New Jersey Devils where if he can get yet another NHL reset, he'll be happy to do that. His wife is, I think, from the New York area, which explains why he would have kiboshed the San Jose trade in the offseason. But now that he's had a look at the San Jose Sharks with Smith and Celebrini and how competitive that team is, maybe he can convince his better half that, you know what, Cali isn't that bad. San Jose is not a bad team. Let's see if we can get that back online.
We can always move back to New York.
Sure.
We can always move back.
Yeah, why not?
For a few years.
Terrible taxes, both states. That's irrelevant. So we'll have some sun. Don't like it.
Napa Valley every couple of weeks. Sure. Not a bad thing.
You might enjoy it.
Yeah. And chances are, babe, if you go to the ATM, it's going to spit some dough out for you, regardless of the tax situation. Like it's probably NSF. What does that even mean? That's probably not happening.
It's a credit limit, not an issue on the card.
Going to be just fine. All right, Dregs, we'll let you get out.
Let's drag it out in case something happens.
Okay,
I have one tidbit. Right. Linus Ullmark returned to practice. He's on the ice with the Suns today. Just a quick note on that, and then we'll let you go.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. I think that, what I was told was they were hoping to have him back in the crease as early as next week. And so that aligns. If he's back on the ice, they'd want to get him at least a couple of practices and then go from there.
Thank you.
Okay, boys.
Go Bills.
I was going to say, football this weekend?
Yeah, you know what? You guys don't want to hear it. It's not embarrassing because it's so cliche. What is the day? It's day 16 of dry January for me.
I'm sorry, buddy.
I know. And what I've learned is, I guess I'm not as big a football fan as I thought I was. The Sunday afternoon pub day with my buddies.
Yeah.
It's not the same with the fake beer. It's not the same. It's not.
Well, speaking of which, it was the days leading up to Christmas, and I was going through the liquor cabinet just to kind of, let's get got people coming over.
Inventory.
My wife was like, Grand Marnier, like what even is this? It's like, what is this for? I'm like,
delicious. That's
my sources tell me it's delicious.
Yeah. Just not bottle after bottle after bottle.
Right.
It's a sipper and occasional sipper.
Very nice. Thanks, Dregs. Have a fine week, buddy.
Yeah, you too, fellas. Thank you.
Hey, buddies. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it. Also, if you could throw in a like and subscribe, it does help us out with what it is we are doing. And check out more at flamesnation.ca.